So let's talk about a massive shift happening in the world of finance. We're talking about how regulators are trying to get ahead of the game, moving from just reacting to crises to actually preventing them. This is all about something called supervisory intelligence, where AI is basically becoming the new sheriff in town for spotting risk.
I mean, that's the big question, right? For as long as we can remember, financial supervision has been about damage control, coming in after the fact to clean up the mess. But what if? What if you could see the cracks forming in the foundation? What if you could step in before the whole thing comes crashing down?
And that's the heart of the change we're diving into today. The old way was all reactive. You'd look back through piles of data trying to figure out what went wrong. But this new model, the one powered by AI, is all about being predictive. It's about using all that data to look forward and see trouble coming before it turns into a total disaster.
Okay, so let's get into what this really looks like. You've got agencies like the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, the OCC, and they're fundamentally changing their approach. They're done with just looking in the rearview mirror. Now they're using these really sophisticated algorithms to scan the horizon, trying to flag risks way before they ever have a chance to make headlines.
So how in the world do they do that? Well, it all comes down to a really powerful new set of tools. We're going to break down the 4 main AI techniques that actually make all of this predictive power possible. First on the list is something called clustering. So imagine you could group thousands of banks together, not just by how big they are, but by how they actually act. What kinds of loans they're making, where their money is, their whole risk profile. The algorithm creates these little neighborhoods of similar banks, which is cool. But the real magic is that it can instantly spot the one bank that starts acting weird, the one that's breaking away from its peers. That's your outlier, and that's who gets a closer look.
Next up, we have anomaly detection. Honestly, you can think of this as a digital detective that literally never sleeps. It just churns through these massive data sets, financial reports, transaction logs, even public statements. And it's constantly on the hunt for weird patterns, for red flags that any human examiner would almost certainly miss just because of the sheer volume of it all.
And then there's forecasting. This is where things get really forward-looking. These AI models are fed this huge diet of data signals, everything from big-picture economic trends all the way down to the nitty-gritty of one bank's loan book. And they use all that info to run thousands of simulations. They're basically asking, okay, what if a recession hits next month? What if interest rates go crazy? It's like a digital stress test for the whole system, before the real stress even shows up. And finally, we have natural language processing, or NLP. This is where AI basically learns to read. It can go through thousands of pages of just text. We're talking customer complaints, internal company emails, notes from examiners, and it can pull out the key themes, the sentiment, the hidden risks, and turn all those words into hard data points. So, when you start putting all these tools together, you see this really powerful logic start to take shape. It all begins with clustering. That's what cuts through all the noise and shows you the outliers, the institutions that are doing something different.
And once you've found those outliers, forecasting steps in. It tests them, and it tests the ones that look perfectly fine too. And that's how you reveal the hidden fragility, the weaknesses that might be hiding just beneath the surface.
And finally, anomaly detection can dig even deeper, potentially revealing deception or problems that someone was trying to hide. See how it works? Each tool builds on the other, giving you this incredible multi-layered picture of risk that just wasn't possible before. Now, I know what you might be thinking. This sounds a lot like the machines are taking over. But that's not really the story here. The next piece of this puzzle is absolutely critical. It's all about how this tech helps the human experts, not replaces them. And you really have to get this point. The goal here is not to replace human judgment. It's to augment it. It's to make it better. Think of the AI as a superpowered co-pilot. Its job is to make the human examiner smarter and faster by pointing and saying, hey, you need to look over here. This is where your expertise is needed most. So an alert from the AI is never the final word. It's just the start of an investigation. The examiner gets the flag, and then their own critical thinking kicks in. First, they have to ask, is this signal for real or is it just a statistical fluke? Then, okay, if it's real, does it actually matter? Is this a big enough deal to cause a real problem? And finally, the most important question of all, do we need to do something about it?
It's also really important to understand that this whole system didn't just appear out of thin air. This kind of transformation takes time. The adoption of what people in the industry call soup tech, or supervisory technology, has been a really careful, deliberate journey.
The whole strategy evolved in phases. It started with these small, early pilot programs, just dipping a toe in the water with anomaly detection. Then it got bigger, moving into behavioral analytics to help protect consumers. And, this is key, the whole time they're running these rigorous AI ethics reviews to make sure the algorithms are fair, accurate, and not creating some new kind of bias.
All right, this brings us to our final point, and it's maybe the most important one of all. With all this talk about fancy algorithms and artificial intelligence, what's the one thing holding this entire system up? What's the foundation?
Look, there is no question that AI can see these incredibly complex patterns in data that are just completely invisible to us. That's its superpower. But that superpower, that sight, is only as good as the information it's been trained on.
And this is really what it all comes down to, because behind every single one of those AI alerts, behind every clever algorithm, there is a database. But it's not just a database of numbers, it's a database of history. It's a record of every assumption a person made, every time an examiner decided to override the machine, and every single final decision they reached. The AI might be looking forward, but it's that recorded history that keeps human accountability right at the center of it all.